Good evening. This is the Oscar expert here with Brother Bro. And although it's April, you're going to get our top 10s of 2018. You might think that, oh, I'm the Oscar expert. My top 10 is going to be the 8 Best Picture nominees and 2 of the outsiders. Not the case. We actually both agree that this year was not that strong.
I have one nominee in my top 10. I have one.
Start out with, what's your number 10, Justin?
I'm not sure what my number 10 is. I have Shoplifters and Burning because these are both movies that I really liked, and I feel like if I saw either one of them again, I would like even more. I feel like they're both movies that I kind of want to mention in here.
My number 10 is Vice. This movie was nominated for Best Picture. The Academy ate it up, and I kind of ate it up too. It has a lot of mixed reactions, and I understand that people might feel like the movie is like really like jamming shit down your throat, but I was just a big fan of like the energy of the movie and like its willingness to take stylistic risks, and like The Big Short, which I like so much, it did a really good job of like making you feel terrible about the way that politics are operated.
A damn entertaining movie, I would say, and I agree with you in that that Vice got more backlash than I was happy to see it get. I really enjoyed Vice. That was one of the better Best Picture nominees. Not my top 10. My number 9 is First Man. A lot of you know I liked First Man. I was screaming nomination morning, screaming. It's a great look at how going to the moon was a personal mission for this guy, and what it meant to him was so like private but universal, to do what nobody else has, to like put his mind to that, to escape, and also like confront his past. Like, yeah, I get why it doesn't make sense with people like, okay, why is this movie just about like his dead daughter? Like, it's about, I want to have fun, I want to go to the moon, I want Apollo 13. And you didn't get that. You got Damien Chazelle's vision for this movie, and I really enjoyed it. I get that it's kind of like slow or boring, I get that, but overall, like I was like so down with the way that Damien Chazelle told the story, and in a way that nobody else would have.
And my number 9 is A Quiet Place, because A Quiet Place was a full meal, okay? I just left the theater like I was suspensed for the entire fucking duration. Great cinematography, music, editing, performances were fantastic. I was on board with this movie from start to finish. It had a lot of heart and it had so much suspense. I was just really like the whole movie, so I can't say much bad about it. A full meal, a very satisfying movie.
Also really enjoyed that movie, though not in my top 10. Number 8, Can You Ever Forgive Me? Really love this movie for what the story was about, and then to what the director did with it, and the way they made you care about her. Fantastic. Melissa McCarthy, my favorite performance of the year. She's just bringing some, like, the pain of this person into every single scene, okay? That's the kind of performance this is. Like, she's bringing in the pain of her, like, everything's just, like, a drudge. What's undercutting the movie is just that feeling of, like, life's just hard, it sucks, and you're not getting paid, but you want to do what you love. And then it's also managed to be, like, really funny and entertaining. And, I mean, in the scene in the end when Richard E. Grant and her were reuniting, I mean, come on. Tugged at my heartstrings. And the acting between them, the chemistry, like one of the best examples of on-screen chemistry that I can think of. Amazing job, Marielle Heller.
My number 8 is If Beale Street Could Talk, because this movie does such a great job of making you feel the euphoria of love and relationships, and also making you feel like the hell of being trapped in an America that is against you. In the same movie. I think it's fantastic how it does that, and the juxtaposition between those two. I think this movie got really overlooked. I was very disappointed that this movie did not get a Best Picture nomination. I thought that it did so many things so well. The performances are excellent. It's such a beautiful looking movie. Yeah, it definitely deserves to be on my top 10, and I'm so sad that the Academy fucked up.
My number 7, the most controversial pick, Beautiful Boy. I loved Beautiful Boy, okay? I flat out, like, loved that movie. Why did I love Beautiful Boy? I thought it was very well made and edited, and I get, and the slice of life thing worked really well for me. I know it didn't work that well for other people. People felt like it was kind of meandering, but for me, it was kind of trying to shove these moments down your throat. I didn't feel that way at all. I thought, like, the conflict was captured really well between, like, the father and the son, and it didn't feel forced. It was, like, the opposite of feeling like it was a forced movie trying to spoon feed you. It was like you're just jumping into these moments And these conversations the characters are having, they're very difficult. And I felt like the movie was very perceptive about addiction. It was one of the best movies I've seen about that. I got a sense of the father's pain and how he was, like, his attempt to save his child but not being able to. I got a sense of this kid's desires to escape as well, and why the drugs, like, did that to him. And, you know, the movie's putting you through this, like, really uncomfortable cycle that people who are actually experiencing addiction go through in their families. The choice to not end this movie on a happy note, even though he survived. And I thought that's freaking brilliant, because you could have maybe walked out of this movie saying, thank God that guy survived because I really cared about him. But no, you're not thinking that. You're like mulling it over. Like, I was sad after this movie. I was like very deeply sad because this is still a problem that affects so many people. Timothée Chalamet. What a snub!
What a snub!
I always forget
that he got snubbed, and then I remember, and I'm like,
the guy is like one of the best actors today. I mean, let's just face it.
My number 7 is Hereditary. That's because Hereditary is one of the best horror movies I've seen. It doesn't have my favorite ending, but other than that, there's so much that's so strong about this movie. Toni Collette is fucking great. Everybody knows it. That's another Oscar snub that we have to talk about on this video. Just a shame. The cinematography was so amazing in this movie. The way that, like, there are things in the fucking corner that are dimly lit. You have to see this movie on the big screen, because if you're watching it on your laptop with low brightness, you will fucking miss the movie. Just so masterfully, like, directed and edited. And it just, the sense of, like, grimness and, like, this Colin Stetson score grounded in, like, this disgusting tragedy. And the fact that it was, like, actually scary in some ways, which was surprising for a movie that was so focused on, like, the family drama and did that in such a good way.
The next 2 movies I have are already on your list. I'm just licking my lips hearing you talk about them. Just yummy, just really yummy movies. The order from here on, I mean, this could be number 4 for all I care. But number 6, If Beale Street Could Talk. I had a lot of feelings in this movie, okay? I was like a little puddle of Play-Doh, and the movie was just squishing me and molding me, making me feel so many things. Just like the beauty that this movie has from Barry Jenkins' direction.
Let's talk about Brian Tyree fucking Henry's scene.
Yeah, that scene where he's talking about being in prison. There are just so many beautiful scenes. The cinematography in that movie, like the music. Oh, I love the music. The sex scene in that movie. Oh my God. One of the most gorgeous sex scenes in movies. It's like 6 or 8 minutes long or something.
Is it? I don't remember.
It was long. It went through like 3 different songs. You feel like all this pain that these characters experience because they're victims of society. But you also like see how they're like free and how they're like liberated. And Barry Jenkins' voice, he's one of the only directors making movies about these characters in such a like beautiful way and in such a layered way. What he did, I mean, I liked what he did here just as much as what he did with Moonlight.
My number 6 is The Favorite. Watched it first time, not crazy. Watched it the second time, loved it. Olivia Colman, the entire cast, amazing. Weirdness factor, excellent. And also, I think that it has great characters. The ending of this movie is perfect in the weirdest way. It's a fun movie, but then there's so much underlying sadness in it that's what makes it so special.
Number 5 for me, Hereditary, because Hereditary is one of the greatest horror films I've ever seen. I am actually not a huge fan of what the ending brings to it. I think the way that the movie develops is almost better than like what the ending has to offer. But there's just so many scenes like with the family when Toni Collette has the nightmare and they're covered in gasoline.
Oh my God.
That like freaking affected me. So many scenes that are with the family drama and like with the horror that's happening in real life like affected me. And also the way that they like cling to the spirituality and like and the paranormal aspects of the movie, the way the characters cling to that and the way they want it to happen, they start seeing it happen. Like I find it so disturbing on the level of just being like a disturbing, like messed up movie that was grounded in something like, real that I could imagine. And then also being like what I thought was really scary. You know, this movie I will absolutely remember and probably consider it like one of my top 10 favorite horror movies ever.
Number 5 is Blindspotting. This movie went majorly overlooked and should have been in conversation for awards because of the conversations that it brings to the table about the racial dialogue that we're having. And we nominate a lot of those movies, and this movie did it maybe the best out of all of them this year. This movie was written by and starring Daveed Diggs and Raphael Casal, who wrote an amazing screenplay and had such a great sense of this friendship that these characters had. Their performances in the movie are amazing. This movie has so many great details. It reminded me of Do the Right Thing, like for the modern day. I would watch it again. This is a movie that you haven't seen, even though I've been telling you to see it for
I'm going to see it eventually, and I'm sorry that I didn't see it, because I know I would probably really like it, and it'd probably be in the top 10 somewhere.
It's funny. It has like this, buddy quality to it that makes it really fun to watch. There's a scene towards the end where Daveed Diggs is rapping, and I'm not going to say the context of the scene, but it's so surprisingly effective, and you haven't seen anything like it before, and it's amazing. It's just an amazing moment. And if you haven't seen it, you really should, because it was majorly overlooked.
My number 4 is The Favorite. I've had problems with Yorgos Lanthimos' films in the past, and this was not one that I had problems with. I saw it twice, and by the second time I was like, this is a perfect movie. It's funny and weird in the best ways that Yorgos Lanthimos films are, but it's also grounded in the tragedy that this queen experienced and like the insanity that it creates. For a movie being about like power dynamics and power play between the women, it's perfect, and it's amazingly directed, and it's my favorite Best Picture nominee, and it's the only Best Picture nominee in my top 10. So
my number 4 is Eighth Grade. It brings you into an extremely awkward time in someone's life, and can't think of a movie that this weird, awkward adolescent phase is taken like so seriously in a movie and treated with such respect. For Bo Burnham to do that was just amazing. Elsie Fisher should have been nominated for Best Actress. This movie has hilarious, awkward moments that make you want to die. And really heartwarming moments. The scene with the dad by the fire is amazing. One of the most heartfelt moments of the year. And it's a movie you don't want to miss. I mean, I'm not even like into Bo Burnham. I don't follow him or anything. But he just came out of nowhere and surprised me so much with this movie.
My number 3 is Annihilation. Maybe even the most memorable film this year from like a genre perspective. The way it impacted me, how different it is from like everything, the headspace that it brings you into, that it asks you to go into this really abstract realm, and it like captivated me. I mean, we saw this at the LA premiere, where we didn't know any analysis, like we couldn't read anything about it.
I didn't even know it was going
literally the premiere, okay?
Natalie Portman was there. Alex Garland was there.
All the actors.
Ryan Johnson was there.
Ryan Johnson was there?
Yeah.
I didn't see him.
I saw Ryan Johnson.
I didn't know that.
Janelle Monáe was there. Gina Rodriguez was there.
They were in the audience. They watched their own movie. We didn't actually love it the first time we saw it. Since then, I've seen it 2 more times. But the third time, I honestly think it's like, it's not maybe a perfect movie, but it's an excellent movie. It's a movie that like can work for you on different levels. There's too much to talk about for this little segment, but I will say that it has one of the greatest horror movie scenes I've ever seen. It does sci-fi amazingly. It does so many genres. The ending is so freaking weird and abstract that you're just like... And the score is incredible.
Another smell.
My God, incredible. One of my favorite scores probably ever. Like the whole third act ending, just like a 15-minute opus. I don't know what an opus is.
It's an opus.
What is an opus?
It's just an opus.
It's just an opus. It like takes you out of your mind. Like it takes you out of your ego and you're just like tripping.
It's the ego death that one would experience on a psychedelic put into a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of do want to like give my interpretation now. I'm like thinking about it. My angle of the movie is like...
You think about it from the biological perspective where the cells and everything are constantly morphing, shifting, refracting off of things around them. People do that. They change. Natalie Portman's character resisting the change. Her home life with Oscar Isaac, there's things going on there. Feelings are changing, and she is violently attacking those feelings.
And so the ending is like her letting go of these resistances because like this shadow thing has to integrate with her in a way that's like extremely uncomfortable, and she's like confronting this very like inert biological part of her that is, you know, she is confronting like the unexplained. She is confronting the thing that we don't even see, like we can't understand it because it's like beyond our perception. It's like the way that change occurs and the way that people like are changing literally.
Also, like the brutality of nature in the movie, the way that that's represented is really interesting. The way that different characters in the movie deal with like this changing of your insides and your psychology. There's so many allusions to like psychedelic imagery in the movie. Like there's a part where she's literally staring into a psychedelic portal. Like,
and you can look so deep into this movie. Like, what is, nature is just like a refracting, fragmenting, like timeless, ethereal soup that nobody understands. Taking your ego apart and like reconstructing it. The movie's amazing. I mean, I kind of think in some ways it's my number one because it's the movie I reflect most on. Like,
I agree with
that. Other movies impacted me emotionally more, and that's why those are above this one, because this was more of a cerebral experience.
My number 3 is Can You Ever Forgive Me? The reason it's like so high, you explained a lot of what I love about it. Melissa McCarthy and Richard E. Grant give some of the best performances of the year. Their chemistry is amazing. You just like rejoice in how cynical these characters are. There's just people who you would never know in real life, who you might never sympathize with in real life. If you heard this story on paper, you wouldn't even care. But because Melissa McCarthy and Marielle Heller are able to just bring you into this universe of Melissa McCarthy's internal world, it just made it a substantial movie to me. A lot of people will probably walk out of this movie and say, oh, it was fine. It was good. It was solid. Like, it wasn't a big deal to me. Maybe it was a little slower. But for me, there's so much like emotional subtlety that I was on like this journey with the character. I was like really like suckling at this movie's teat. And
wow.
Emotionally rich. I think it's one of the best examples of characters in movies. I don't know, you just so experience so much joy and sorrow along with them. Great performances. I loved the movie so much. I walked out of it. I was just so satisfied. Talk about a full meal. I was just like, that is the kind of movie I like to see. So that's why Can You Ever Forgive Me is my number 3.
That movie's like the surprise of the year. Like the movie that I loved like more than
I thought I was going to like it a good bit, but I loved it. So, I don't know.
All right, number 2, 8th Grade. Fantastic movie. I mean, this movie was so moving. Again, it harkens back to the 8th grade experience, like the terror and awkwardness you feel in a way that was like, oh my god, I didn't even remember that I felt that way, but like I freaking did. It was more like for me rather than 8th grade, like high school.
Oh, we've had our share of awkwardness, haven't we?
Though? Oh yeah. There was so much like truth to that movie, and when you watch any interview with Bo Burnham explaining his movie and like what inspired him, and you're like, yes, like you made a movie that's such an important thing that nobody else like remembered. No one else remembered because you just forget about it. Like you put it away and you're like, okay, well that's done. Like I don't need to go back to that. But like it felt so important to go back to it and like to remember the pain that you feel like walking through the hallway and how that's like a painful like experience sometimes. The movie captures like the universal story, like trying to fit in, trying to conform yourself to fit into this world that like sucks. And then just deciding, like, you know what, I can't really care about this. I have to do my own thing. And the hardship, how hard is kind of the conclusion. Bo Burnham's direction is not to be underestimated. I mean, he's freaking talented. And the empathy that he has for this character, how much understanding he has, the way, like, he'll use music and just, like, boost everything up as much as possible to get you to feel her internal world. Like, he's a great director. I can't wait to see what he does.
It's the father's monologue at the end where he's just saying to her what you like want to say the whole time. You just want to reach out and be like, you are fine. You're a cool person. You don't know
stop hating yourself. You don't have to hate yourself. Like you're good the way you are. That's what everybody feels like they want to say to themselves at that point. Universal story. That's why it's number 2, okay? That's why it's number 2. It's a universal story.
The father's monologue is like one of those things like where that should be going viral on Facebook. Like everybody needs to hear this. It's true. Everybody does need to hear it. My number 2 is Annihilation. I don't need to say more about this because we discussed it a lot. Like, yeah, this could be my number 1, but like you said, there were a couple movies that impacted me emotionally more, but this is just the trip of the year. That's all.
Or the decade. All right, number 1, the movie that just emotionally impacted me the most out of the whole year. That's my measurement for this, okay? That's my measurement. And that's why this movie is allowed to be a documentary. And it is Won't You Be My Neighbor.
I would have put that on my top 10 if I thought we were doing documentaries.
Who cares what it is?
I don't know.
It moved me more than any other movie this year. Like the way I felt at the end of the movie. I couldn't like do anything for a while. Because I was like so moved by it. Like incredibly moved by it. Did I expect to be that moved by this movie? Like absolutely not.
Another Oscar snub, Justin.
Oh
Another
my
Oscar
god!
snub.
Oh my god! I didn't even like react to it because I couldn't process it because I don't care about the documentary category and like generally people don't. But like if I had to sit and think about it, I'd be like, how the fuck could you snub that movie? Like, what did you do?
I don't know who didn't vote for
How?
it. I don't know who
What?
didn't vote for it.
Why? It should have won the Oscar, and it just. Why does this movie explore Mr. Rogers in the best way that you could possibly do it? Which is what I truly believe. They like touch on this duality of humanity. That's between like the pure good, which is almost in a way it's like the Christian mythology of like what good is and like what you want to bring to the world, like the way that you want to spread it, like the joy. And then there's also like what seems to be defeating that, which is really prevalent in modern world. There's so much cynicism. The kids are growing up from his show to become people that may actually have like a lot of hate or, you know, aren't making the world a better place. There's so much evil around the world. Like they talk about like 9/11 in the movie. And you're like, this belongs in this movie when you see it. It's like about the faith that you have in humanity versus these terrible things that threaten to like destroy it and why it's still important to have faith in it. Because ultimately, if you reflect on like what's important in life, you think about the people who gave you that feeling of like confidence, which is what Mr. Rogers like truly attempted to give to people. And you're like, well, there's nothing more valuable in the world than that. And like the movie makes you believe it. So you come out and you're like, just like, oh my god, like wow. The movie makes you appreciate all the people in your life who like as a child loved you. I mean, what greater lesson is there than that to appreciate those people? You know, this movie's great number one for me for that reason.
We're hoping that A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood can live up. And I'll tell you, I watched this movie on a plane and it was tough because when you're on a plane, you don't want to express emotions and it was kind of a battle. My number one is First Man, which, now you know why
It's tough.
I cared so much when this
Sorry,
movie
man.
got, don't touch me,
No,
when this movie
okay.
got snubbed in several categories. I expected the Best Picture snub, right? I knew it was not going to get Best Picture.
It was a slow process though of realizing that it wasn't gonna get nominated.
But then
though.
the cinematography snub, which it should have won the Oscar, and the editing snub, which it should have won the Oscar, and the
lost
score
the Sound
snub,
Awards.
which like
it lost the Sound Awards to Bohemian Rhapsody.
it lost
and we know
sound to
about that.
Bohemian Rhapsody. Disgusting. It was disgusting. Ryan Gosling. People were like, oh, he didn't really do a lot. He was boring. Neil Armstrong didn't express any emotions. Fuck you.
This is just a rant.
The movie was beautifully profound. It has some of the most intense scenes that I've seen in a movie. Like, just how it was done when you are hurtling up in space in a fucking arcade machine from the 60s. He gets to the top and he sees like this like beautiful line and he's like, this is why I'm doing it. The
what
realism,
you're
just
getting
like
at.
the grittiness of it, like the shaky cam where people are like, it's just too shaky, make me nauseous. Like, no shit. I thought the graininess was just beautiful in every shot. Like the cold lighting on people's faces.
All the cinematography
everything.
choices
Every
in the
cinematography
movie.
choice. Forget Roma. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
still, I couldn't have seen a movie that was like better directed. And Ryan Gosling was so amazing in the movie. Like, people said they didn't know what he was feeling. I didn't know what he was feeling, but I fucking felt it. Do you understand? Because he's such a great actor, because you understand the emotions he's going through, even though there's a mystery behind it. I think that the fact that there is a little bit of a mystery in this movie makes it even more special. I love the way that the movie acknowledges like the irrationalness of like going to the moon. Like, why would we spend billions to do this? Because mankind has an irrational desire to experience like something otherworldly and different. And Ryan Gosling's character is in a position where he experiences the lows of humanity. His daughter fucking died. And he is still pursuing that great beyond. He's pursuing the great beyond.
He's pursuing it even more because
there's nothing else on Earth. In order to live on Earth, he needs to leave it. The moment at the end where like Claire Foy comes in, they just like stare at each other and then they like touches the glass. Just amazing. When it ended, I was just like, I didn't like know exactly what to think, but I was feeling things. I don't know what it was. But that movie was substantial to me. And I get angry when I see the criticisms of the movie because they're a bullshit. And the snubs the whole year, I was taking blow after blow. The Golden Globes, the Oscars, the BAFTAs. Like, just it was torturous. I felt like Ryan Gosling at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, it was like hurtling through space. Like,
No, I'm talking. Oh, I was talking about when his daughter died.
oh, okay. Well, that's not. I mean, I understand why you wanted Apollo 13 and said you got a grief drama. The whole point of why it's great is because you wanted Apollo 13, but you got the grief drama. You got the actual story behind the story, okay? Damien Chazelle literally just made a movie about a parent losing their child and just it happened to be Neil Armstrong going to space. So he could express visually and orally like what the experience is in a way.
I thought it was
it's
just
pretty amazing.
another amazing movie about ambition and the human condition from Damien Chazelle.
He's today's Steven Spielberg, I think.
I think this movie has a lot of comparisons to Close Encounters, just because that movie
Yeah,
is
oh, I agree.
pursuing the
That's
great
actually
beyond,
great.
and so is this movie. And it is a profound movie. Going to the moon is profound. The desire to go to it and to spend billions of dollars to do it is profound. So, and people are too. So everything about this movie I just loved, and that's why it's my number one movie of the year. I hope you enjoyed our belated top 10.
Why don't you comment your top 10?